Ryan is a useless hero who was betrayed by his teammates who considered him weak. However, everything changes when he tames super powerful beast girls to get revenge, but discovers they'll do anything to please him as well. It all begins with Ryan being suddenly fired by his group's leader. After taking a moment to recall how he helped the team with his beast taming skills, he asks if they're joking. But upon realizing Arios is actually serious, he questions why. A magic user, Lin, then calls him the most useless human garbage they've ever seen. After everyone takes turns talking about how they always had to save him on missions, Ares tells him to drop his equipment since it was too broken to pay for anything good. Minutes later, he finds a bench to sit on and realizes that every time they were harsh on missions, it was because they always hated him. Then, 3 of his fans appear and beg to see his ability. So he quickly tames a bird and makes it greet them before releasing it from his contract. He explains how he forms contracts with animals, but their underdeveloped brains struggle to process the information. So they skip the tutorial to say everyone wants to become beast tamers in the future. This surprises him since everyone usually wants to be hero. But then they explain that Arios and the others in his group always look down on common people and only respect those with money. After they say being an adventurer is much better, Rin stops to think and realizes that being independent and free to earn money with his skills is right for him. Shortly after, he arrives at the Adventurers Guild, where a receptionist named Natalie greets him and offers to explain the test he must pass to become one. However, when he asks for a detailed explanation of what an adventurer is, she's surprised and says people focus more on how much money they can earn than what the job really is. She then explains the adventurer ranking system, as well as the jobs he can take on at each level, before saying he has to kill 10 goblins and collect 20 special herbs to officially become one. Later that day, he locates a group of goblins and easily slaughters them. But after collecting the crystals, he hears screams from inside the forest and runs to see a rank tiger about to devour an innocent-looking girl. Despite knowing there's nothing he can do, he attacks the tiger with a butter knife and acts surprised when it breaks like a twig. As the tiger decides to eat him, he tells the girl to run, but she suddenly channels what little energy she has left into a powerful jump and shatters the tiger's spine with a kick. After observing her closely, Rin realizes he's just come into contact with a cat spirit, which happens to be the rarest of all supreme species. The next moment, the tiger turns to fairy dust. Then he runs to catch Kinad, who then begins begging for food. Moments later, she finishes her snacks and says she was about to go see her grandparents in heaven because she hadn't eaten in days. After a proper introduction, he asks why she's starving in a random forest. Then she explains how she decided to leave her isolated village to experience life. A few minutes after that, he gives all the details of the verbal abuse he suffered at the hands of his former group, and she suddenly gets upset about the unfair way he was treated. This surprises him. Then he tells her not to bother feeling bad because he's the one who was too weak to keep up with them. When Kanade claims he's actually very powerful, he's even more surprised. Then she explains she felt some of his power when they met before telling him to try taming her. He initially thinks there's no way to tame a supreme species, but after deciding he at least wants to spend more time with her, he initiates the ritual and actually manages to perform it. She then tries to run off with him, but he stops to complete his adventure test and creates contracts with a group of rabbits before sending them to do all the work for him. This shocks her, and when she says common beast tamers can only handle one animal at a time, he states there's nothing special about his ability. Back at the guild, several minutes later, Nadal examines all the items he gathered to ensure they're legitimate before making him an official adventurer and handing over his ID card. After also giving him some coins for completing the test, she admits it may be a bit little, but promises he'll be accumulating money in no time as long as he keeps honing his ability. Despite her motivational speech, Rin gets worried upon realizing it'll take much more than good vibes to build a good life as an adventurer. Then he approaches Kanade and asks if she's willing to start accepting jobs. As soon as she says yes, the human version of Esker appears and asks why a cat spirit is hanging out with such a pathetic weakling. After she calls him stupid for not realizing Rin is actually a really powerful beast tamer, he decides to challenge Rin to an arm wrestle and says he'll take Canard after winning. Instead of making a cliché speech about how women aren't property to be fought over, Rin decides to give the people what they want and sits down for the match. The next moment, he crushes the scarred idiot's hand on the table and struggles to understand how he got so strong while the wannabe bandit writhes in pain. After Natalie explains they were considering revoking his license, she asks Serene how the hell he contacted a cat spirit. Then both cling together in fear that she's about to punish them. However, after saying he'll certainly get stronger in the coming months, she wishes them luck and drags Scarface out of the building. Seeing Ryan still confused about the sudden increase in his strength level, Kanad explains that establishing the contract gave him access to all her abilities. She then gets excited for the next mission until they start sifting through weeds to find another batch of medicinal herbs. When she asks why he's not accepting high high-level missions, he reminds her he just received his license and is still just an unranked adventurer. As soon as she decides to do her best, regardless of how boring the job is, he tames another group of rabbits to gather everything they need, and she gets upset about how useless she's been since he tamed her. After telling her not to worry, he suggests returning to the guild to find another job, but she suddenly hears some commotion in the distance and tells him someone is in danger. Moments later, they arrive at the scene and observe an old man being threatened by a large group of bandits. When Kana says they should look for help, Rin tells her it'll be too late when they return. As soon as she realizes what he plans to do, both attack and take down the entire group in less than a minute. They then ask the old man why he was traveling without escort, and after saying they all fled when the bandits first appeared, he tells Ring they have to get as far away as possible, because no one has ever faced their group and lived to tell the tale. Hearing this, Rin stops to think of a rational solution and decides the best move will be to capture every member of the group. As he leaves to start the plan, Canada remembers there are at least 100 bandits he'd have to face. R states it won't be a problem because he has the perfect plan to take care of them. Outside their hideout, a few minutes later, he introduces her to a species of highly venomous bees and says he'll tame a bunch of them to knock out all the henchmen until she returns with reinforcements. He then tells her to get as many adventurers as she can, as well as the Order of Knights. And after she runs off, he summons his army of bees to begin. Meanwhile, Lien and Mina, who turn out to be the escorts the old man hired, have just stopped running and pause to catch their breath before Mina grabs a high-level beast tamer they hired to ask why he didn't serve as a human shield. After he tells them beast tamers don't get involved in combat missions, Mina asks why he only tamed one squirrel when there are dozens running around, but he suddenly gets shocked and asks how they can expect him to do the impossible. As he explains how common beast tamers can only handle one animal at a time, Rin easily commands his army of bees to sting all the bandits in the hideout until they pass out. Lien then threatens the beast tamer to take the blame for their epic failure. And after he flees, Mina states there's no way Rin could be really powerful just because he could tame multiple animals. Several minutes later, Kanadi returns with a group of adventurers from the guild who then tell Rin the Order of Knights refused to help. With their help, they tie up all the bandits. But as soon as he and Kanad start celebrating their victory, they hear a loud roar before 3 king lizards emerge from their cage and begin attacking everyone in sight. After Run tells the adventurers to wait outside, they and Kanad face the Hanksay beasts in an epic royal battle that extends until the end of the night. At one point, the adventurers start worrying they might not make it out alive, but when both emerge with crystals obtained from the defeated lizards, the adventurers surround them to celebrate, making Rin realize he's come a long way since being the weakling Arios fired. At the guild later, Natalie presents him with a fat bag of coins as a reward for the capture before promoting him to rank and for all his efforts. He then takes Kanad to buy new equipment and makes a stop at the town restaurant to enjoy the best dinner money can buy. However, when they finally find a hotel to spend the night, happiness fades after he discovers they'll have to share a room. While Kanad immediately jumps on the bed and expresses how excited she is to finally sleep indoors, he decides to go sleep outside, but she stops him from leaving and says she doesn't mind spending the night with him. Hearing this, Run tells her to stop trusting him so easily, because his little friend might make him do unholy things in the night, but she still insists it won't be a problem and says he's too nice to do something like that. He then decides to give her a quick lesson about how men can be dangerous so she can understand why Jan's girls prefer to be alone with bears. Despite this, she still refuses to let him sleep outside and explains how he's the only guy who made her feel safe after she left her village. Then he agrees to share the room. More than a week later, both complete a common mission, but when they return to the guild to receive payment, Nadal tells them about a guard dog that's been attacking anyone who tries to cross the central bridge. After she explains how all the victims end up needing hospital care, Kanad begs Rin to accept the mission, but he tells her to forget it because such a mission will probably be left for high-rank adventurers. At that moment, Natalie explains it's actually an open mission for anyone interested, but Rin still remains skeptical until she tells him the reward is 5 gold coins. Shortly after, he and Kanad arrive at the bridge, and after marveling at how big it is, she asks if he has any idea who or what the guard dog is. After he reminds her all the victims were too scared to talk for some reason, both see a dragon in the sky and almost faint from shock. However, after landing on the bridge, Tanya changes to her human form and introduces herself as one of the supreme species called dragonoids before challenging them to a duel. Rin then asks if she's the guard dog sending people to Isu, and when she says it's all part of her training, Kanad explains that dragonoids leave their hometown to begin a long training period as soon as they reach a certain level. This makes Rin start doubting his decision to accept the mission, but Kanadeo reminds him she's also one of the supreme species, so he regains his confidence and accepts Tanya's challenge. The next moment she advances to attack him, and although he manages to block, he quickly realizes why no one else could defeat her. After praising him for being strong enough to survive her weakest attack, she pushes him back and decides to get serious. As soon as they see the blast forming in her mouth, they jump back to dodge, but Kanade still ends up with her tail burned. This makes her angry, so she advances to deliver a barrage of blows, while Rin accepts he's too weak to take her down alone. He then decides to join Kanade, but Tanya easily blocks both attacks before grabbing them by the leg and throwing them as high as she can. The next moment, they see her preparing another blast, but this one turns out to be much more powerful than the first and almost turns them into barbecue wings. However, when the smoke dissipates, Tanya sees they managed to dodge at the last moment and praises their ability before saying no one has ever lasted this long against her. Rin then decides to stop using only Kanade's abilities and tells her to buy time before running off. So she decides to intensify things and attacks Tanya with a powerful punch that almost opens a hole in the bridge. Tanya manages to dodge, but Kanade immediately bathes her in another barrage of punches, while Rin climbs one of the bridge towers to make a contract with a special species of birds. Moments later, Kaneda runs out of combinations to use on Intania, but Kin finally returns and sends his birds to peck every exposed part of her body. After shooing them away, she calls him stupid for thinking such an attack could leave a scratch on her. But after her entire body suddenly goes numb, he explains they're actually a species of highly toxic birds, and that's why he needed a bunch of them just to paralyze a dragon. When she suddenly admits defeat, they're surprised. Then she asks if there's anything else she can do when her entire body has just been shut down. After Kaneda jumps on Ruin to celebrate, he makes Tanya agree to take her training elsewhere before they return to the guild to give Natalie the good news. As usual, she starts gloating him more than Taylor Swift fans and promises to get his coins as soon as they verify he really took down the feared guard dog. The next moment, Tanoda to Tanya and tries to ask if she's a dragonoid, but he quickly intercepts and claims she's a random NPC in costume. On the way out, he then tries to explain how dangerous it would be if everyone knew who she was. But then they see her fighting with the random knight and displaying her tail to the locals. In an open field, a few minutes later, Rin explains PX the importance of keeping her identity secret and suggests going to a different place so she can continue her training without getting into trouble. When Kanade asks why all her victims didn't want to say anything, she reminds them no one likes being beaten up by a villain and suddenly asks if she can join their group. Both are surprised by the sudden request. Then she explains that going on missions with him will serve as perfect training before grabbing Rin and admitting she likes him. Kanade immediately gets jealous and tries to stop her, but after Rin says it's fine with him, she reluctantly accepts. GRE then contacts Tanya, and after he completes the ritual, Kanadia explains what the sign on her hand means, and she happily decides to address him as her master. Hours later, Arios and his group of weaklings return from another failed mission and begin to realize Rin wasn't as useless as they made him seem. Arios then decides to bring him back so they can use him only until they complete a special mission that's coming up. Days later, Rin and the girls set out on a new mission to hunt a swarm of slimes, and after several minutes searching in the forest, Kanade starts complaining. Then Tanya asks if she's afraid of them. After she explains how their soft bodies always stuck to her whenever she encountered them, Tanya states it wouldn't be a problem for her since she can simply roast them from a distance. Rin then remembers they have to find the slimes first before suddenly deciding to try searching from the sky. Both are confused and wonder how he plans to do this until he releases a special ability on a random bird and passes out. They immediately try to wake him and worry he might have killed himself until he starts talking from the bird's body and explains he just transferred his consciousness to it. After telling them to take care of his body, he takes off and finally locates the slimes. Moments later, Kanade picks up a rock to smash them, but Tanny stops her and asks Ruin if he's ever created a fireball. He then remembers trying once several years ago and says he was always weak in elemental magic, but she tells him to try attacking the slimes with it. When a single blast almost opens a crater in the forest floor, he's confused and wonders how he got strong. Then Tanya explains that Damala also gave him access to her powers, exactly the same way it did with Kanade. He's still surprised by the sudden increase in his magic level, but when Tanya says it shouldn't be a problem for her master, he decides to focus and asks if she can help him master it. Tanya then spends the rest of the day giving him orders while he struggles to adjust to his new power level. Later they return to the city, and while the girls decide to wait outside the guild for Rim, a local girl appears to ask about the day's mission. After they tell about the slimes, she thanks them for all the help because it was her parents' farm they always attacked. Everyone continues talking until Rain comes out with the money they earned and ends up having to spend every penny at the buffet both order for dinner. When they finally clean every crumb from their plates, Tanya asks how Rin learned to tame beasts, and Kanade also says she was curious about how he got so good at it. Green then tells about his hometown, where everyone was beast tamers, and how he spent every day training until the entire village was destroyed. It all started like any other day with his parents, who were also beast tamers. Unlike the usual training he'd do with an elder or friend, Rin decided to go to the forest to work on the skills he'd already learned. When he finished the day, it was already sunset, but then he got curious about a bright light shining in the distance and realized it came from his village. He immediately ran back home, but when he got there, it was already too late as everything had been burned. At sunrise the next day, a group of adventurers appeared at the site to rescue him, and one of them helped him find a place to stay. However, he now had to spend nights on the cold floor after long days of brutal work just to keep himself fed. When Ares saw him one afternoon and offered to make him a member of his group, he gladly accepted and thought life was finally about to improve. Unfortunately, he learned the hard way they only heard him as a tool to help make their mission a bit easier. After apologizing for the sad story, Rin tells the girls he long ago accepted his weak and vulnerable nature. But Canadeo remembers all the times he fought to protect her and says he always just wanted to protect people from the cruel and difficult life he himself endured. Tanya also admits liking how he's kind and considerate before getting furious with Arios for being so stupid as not to realize they despised the best thing that ever happened to their group. The next day, they set out on a mission to eliminate a group of orcs, and Kanar decides to challenge Tanya to see who can defeat more enemies. After she easily teaches an entire group of them, Ringa reminds them orcs are actually intelligent, but she ignores him and says they're still too stupid to survive against her. Just a few minutes later, she spots one lying next to a rock, and as soon as she approaches to finish him off, he grabs her light until she falls to the ground. She still manages to eliminate him, but a second orc suddenly attacks from behind. Luckily, Rin jumps and is stabbed in the arm before Canadia finishes off the Tanya immediately apologizes for not looking, but Ron tells her not to worry and quickly heals himself. Shortly after that, he hands the crystals to Nadal at the guild before Kanad tells him Tanya suddenly left to be alone. A few moments later, a girl sees her and asks if she had any epic grand eliminations, but noticing her sad mood, she tells her to speak up if something's bothering her and wishes her luck before running off. As soon as she realizes Reen was just looking out for her when he warned her earlier, he appears to talk to her. She then apologizes for hurting him again and promises to listen properly next time, but he starts petting her head and tells her not to worry about something so simple and trivial. After Kane also catches up to them and hugs her, they return to the hotel and Rana ends up sleeping on the floor so both could enjoy the bed comfortably. This makes Tanya's feelings for him reach new heights and intensities, and after staring at him for a few minutes, she notices a warm and pleasant feeling in her special place, and then she properly covers him to avoid any unwanted temptation. The following afternoon, they easily complete another mission and try to decide between getting more equipment or another buffet when Arios appears with the rest of his former group members. He immediately tells the girls to go a separate way, but Arios stops him and asks why he's being so cold after everything they went through together as a group. Hearing this, the girls ask if he's the hero who fired Ren, and he immediately tries to dismiss them before receiving the shock of his life upon realizing what they really are. When Kanadi says they're group members, Arios asks if they also hired him as a slave just like they did. But Kanad gets furious and warns him against disrespecting her master in any way. Everyone struggles to believe what they hear and wonder how pathetic Rian managed to get such powerful and attractive girls to join him. Then he reminds him of a mission they were planning to take to the Lost Forest and explains how difficult it's been to go deep into the forest without having someone to carry all their heavy bags. When he offers to let him join the group again so he can go back to being their humble and glorified bag carrier, Green gets upset and asks how they even expect him to say yes after everything they did to him. After Arios responds by reminding him everyone wants to join the heroes group, Ren then coldly rejects the offer and starts leaving with the girls. But Mina stops him to explain how important and crucial the mission is. When she mentions the Demon King, Ren suddenly gets intrigued and interested. Then she tells him about a special shield hidden by monsters in the depths of the Lost Forest that they need to have any chance against the Demon King. She continues to give him a detailed explanation of the kind of destruction humanity will face if they fail to stop the Demon King. And this makes Rin remember how he felt when his village was burned down. So he reluctantly agrees to help them with the task. They then try to take him back to base, but Kanade stops them and demands a proper apology for the disrespect they showed him. Hearing this, Arios claims he already apologized. Then Tanya takes over and reminds them of the humiliation Rin suffered before telling them to stick their heads in the ground and beg for his forgiveness. At that moment, Arios completely loses his head and says he'll never bow to such a useless and worthless failure. A GAF also claims they did nothing wrong, while Lean and Mina keep saying Rin should be grateful for the opportunity they just gave him. After suddenly grabbing Rian by the collar, Hirios tells him to put his little pets under control. And when Rian asks if he really just called the girls his pets, Hirios insists and calls them psychopaths for thinking they're better than humans just because they're the supreme and definitive species. He then admits they're attractive, but as soon as he calls Hind a weirdo who loves animals, Ren fractures his face with a brutal punch and warns him against disrespect disrespecting the girls again. Helios then decides to settle scores once and for all with a duel between their groups, and unfortunately agrees to it. Moments later, Kanad prepares to fight H and promises to make him apologize to Rin. But he still insults Rin and releases his Megaton sword to display how strong he is. After he expresses enthusiasm for finally fighting one of the supreme species, Kanad advances and delivers a barrage of powerful punches that almost shatter the sword. When she asks if he's too weak to counterattack, he gets furious and energizes his sword for a deadly and precise blow, but she casually kicks it away, leaving him paralyzed in shock. However, after she expresses her disappointment and says she didn't expect him to be so weak, he decides to go all out and apologizes in advance if the attack sends her to the Lord. Hearing this, Kanad starts stretching and decides to use almost half her strength just to respect the fact he's giving it his all. This sends shivers down Agat's spine, while his mind is flooded by overwhelming fear. As soon as he asks why such a powerful person is walking around with Rin, she responds with a flying kick that shatters every blood vessel. While Kanad then realizes she may have used a bit too much power for the bald weakling, Tanya prepares to fight Mina and Lin. The other two, after saying she would have loved to thrash Arios, she offers to go easy on them, since she doesn't usually fight useless and worthless weaklings, but they promise to take her down and begin preparing powerful and devastating spells. As soon as they release the attacks, Daniels cancels with the snap of fingers and both start trying to figure out what kind of trick or gimmick she used. The confused look on their faces makes her start laughing, so they decide to try again, but she does exactly the same thing and explains her ability to cancel any magic spell without exception. Despite this, the resentful losers still make the mistake of thinking they have a chance and prepare for their most powerful attacks yet. This time, Tanya cancels them as soon as they materialize and decides to show them what true and powerful magic is like. Seeing the countless earth spears about to completely crush them, both begin begging for their lives. But Tanya stops at the last moment and reveals it was just an illusion. However, they still passed out due to psychological trauma. Then she tells him to be grateful Rin isn't an evil master, as she would have loved to see what they'd look like after being burned alive. By then, Arios had just started another narcissistic speech about his own greatness and superiority. Then Rin tries to punch him again and says he's tired of hearing any nonsense he has to say. After promising to make him regret his choice of words, Arios attacks with an incredibly fast sword skill and manages to cut his face. Then Rin starts dodging. When Arios tries to mock him for still being too weak to counterattack, Rin realizes he's not really strong for a hero as he should be. So he grabs him by the arm and asks if he has any other tricks to display before delivering an unpleasant body blow that forces him to retreat. Arios immediately resumes his attack and asks Rin how the hell he's dodging them. Then Rin explains how he mastered each of his moves during the time they worked together and demonstrates some of the power he gained from Kanad by delivering a painful kick to the side. He then tells Aros to admit defeat while he still can, but the arrogant idiot decides to go one step further, releasing his powerful lightning magic. After Rin blocks it with Tanya's fireball, Arios decides to overload him with every spell he learned from Lin, without exception. But then Rin suddenly gets distracted right when he advances for the final and decisive blow. Suddenly, Arios's entire body goes numb and senseless. Then Ruino reminds him he can also tame insects before showing him the bee he summoned when they first started the duel. As he prepares to repay him for all the disrespect and humiliation, Arios starts begging and tries to remind him of all the good times they shared together in the past. But after thinking about how they always treated him like trash and worthless, Rin fears a punch that almost obliterates his skull completely. Fortunately, he managed to restrain himself at the last possible second. And after admitting revenge is extremely satisfying and good, the girls run to reunite with him. Just a few hours after that, they arrive at the Lost Forest. But Kanad starts feeling skeptical about the mission. Then Tanya offers to burn everything in sight. After Rian stops them, they decide to focus on finding the truth shield Arios was talking about. But when he compares the map they were given with the current layout of the forest, it's clear they'll have to find a new way in on their own. When both start asking why he has to help Arios, he reminds them only a hero can defeat the Demon King, and that's why he must wield the shield. He then rubs their heads and thanks them for always caring for him fondly before elaborating a plan to find their own way into the forest. After calling a bird, he switches consciousness as before and sets off to map a new path. Moments later, he returns to his body. But within a few minutes of following the path he found, they come across a stone they placed at the beginning and realize they've been walking in circles the whole time. Tanya then activates a magical tracking skill that leads them to a tree full of illusion magic. As she tries to explain how her magic works, Kanad's brain almost implodes from information overload, so she summarizes before telling Kanad to destroy the tree immediately. When Rian asks why she can't just cancel the magic like she did with Lien and Mina, she explains that magic of this level will take a long time and probably leave leave her feeling extremely drained of life energy. This makes Kenad realize she simply doesn't want Ruin to look bad in front of Arios again. So she agrees to destroy the tree without hesitation, but the moment she gets close enough, a voice warns to stay away. The next moment, a fairy emerges from the tree and orders them to leave immediately. Seeing her, Wincongela in shock because fairies were last seen over 2 centuries ago, after a war against humans. As soon as the shock passes, he tries to argue and reason with her, but she keeps ordering them to leave and finally threatens to ensure she's the last thing he'll see in his life. After several minutes running, Tanya and Kenag try to figure out why they just got attacked by one of the supreme species. Serena explains their hatred for humans, but says she shouldn't have even shown herself to them so casually and carelessly. Cad then remembers the monsters that, according to rumors, are guarding the shield and says she might be working with them. When Tanya says they should just go back and finish what they started with brute force, Ren suggests talking to the fairy instead. Both are surprised he'd even think of it after she almost eliminated him, but he insists they just need to try a softer approach and convinces them to at least give it a chance. Moments later, they return to the tree, but he steps forward first to talk to Sora. As before, she starts threatening to attack if he doesn't leave immediately. And when he asks if they can have a conversation about it, she refuses and prepares to release some of her powerful magic. After stopping the girls from interfering, he tells Sora to give her best shot if it helps her trust him. So she attacks him with a barrage of arrows, but only manages to scratch him a bit. Seeing he still has a warm and gentle smile on his face, she asks if he's really a human like those who threatened to destroy their lands all those years ago. He then admits humans can be greedy, but explains not all of them are bloodthirsty. However, she still refuses to trust him and tries to attack again. Then, Canals and Itana's jump to protect him immediately. The way they easily choose to sacrifice themselves makes Sora have second thoughts and reconsider. So she decides to listen to him and introduces herself properly. Minutes later, they finish explaining their mission to obtain the Truth Shield and ask if she can bring down the barrier, but she refuses and explains it protects the path to her homeland. When Tanya asks if she's just covering for the monster guarding the shield, she claims there are no monsters in the Lost Forest and proves it by teleporting to her village to fetch the shield. After handing it over casually, she explains they were the ones who protected it for the last centuries and says she's only giving it to them because they hate monsters more than humans. Queen then thanks her for the help and asks if they can offer something in return for her help, but she rejects the offer and tells him to leave. However, as soon as Tanya and begin to leave, he returns to talk to Sora and promises he can handle whatever's on her mind and heart. Despite this, she stops herself from telling him for fear he just put himself in unnecessary danger, but he assures her again he can handle anything that comes up. After Tanya and Kenad say the same thing, she talks about Runa, her twin sister, who was assigned to guard the barrier along with her. One day, they got bored of just sitting around and decided to take a walk through the forest, but it ended up being their worst mistake as they encountered a Shadow Knight who ended up capturing Runa. Seeing that supreme species are the only ones capable of resisting the Demon King on their own, the knight demanded to pass through the barrier in exchange for Runa's freedom, but Sora refused and ran home to ask her leader for help. Unfortunately, the leader told her to accept Runa's kidnapping as punishment for their reckless actions. After realizing she must have been miserable alone all this time, Ren promises to save Runa and defeat the Shadow Knight without putting her homeland in danger. Sora then runs into his arms to express her deep gratitude before revealing the Shadow Knight gave her until the end of the day to bring down the barrier or he'd send Runa to an early grave. When Rin tells her not to worry and turns to leave, she offers to go along, but he stops her and explains seeing her there will only make the Shadow Knight attack Runa more furiously. After agreeing to stay, Sora then gives them directions to where the knight was waiting and they find him in just a few minutes. The next moment, Rin fires a fireball, but the Shadow Knight barely moves and calls him stupid for not realizing spells don't work on him. However, after Canada delivers a brutal kick followed by a punch from Rin, they claim to already know about his magic resistance. The knight then asks Ren why he'd choose to fight him despite knowing how powerful he is. As Ren tries to avoid the question, the knight realizes Kincaid was looking at Runa and realizes Sora sent them to rescue her, so he decides to eliminate her without mercy. Fortunately, Tanya blocks his attack and quickly escapes with Runa so they can focus on defeating him. Realizing he's just been tricked, the knight loses his head and releases a powerful ability that threatens to destroy the entire forest. Ren then tells Kanade to prepare for a final and decisive attack, and when she says she might not be strong enough, he tells her not to worry and summons a group of furious bees. When Kanad runs out of tricks to stop the knight, Ryan overloads him with the bees and takes the opportunity to increase Kanad and Tanya's strength level with a powerful spell. With their abilities boosted to the max, she delivers an unpleasant body blow with every gram of remaining energy in her body and opens a hole right in the knight's gut, making him shatter into fairy dust. She then runs to Rim and asks how he managed to accomplish something so powerful powerful and impressive. Then he explains he actually learned the spell in his hometown, but couldn't use it until he acquired Tanya's magic. At that moment, Tanya returns to praise him for his prowess. And as soon as Runa regains consciousness, they take her back to the tree to reunite with Sora. After the sisters greet each other with a high five, Sora asks if there's anything she can do to return the favor, but they tell her not to worry. Runa also thanks them before suddenly starting to talk about all the strange and scary things the night could have done with her. She goes a step further, asking Rin if he thought about her fairy buns being clapped, but he's shocked by the unusual and bold question. Then Sora starts chasing her to stop her from teasing him further. Moments later, the girls ask if they're happy to guard their hometown together again, but Sora reveals she actually wants to leave because she can't forgive the way everyone betrayed Runa to save themselves. After agreeing with her, Runa admits they'd only end up in more danger, since they barely know anything about the outside world and its dangers. Then Kanade asks if they'd like to join the adventurer group. Tan also agrees it would be a great idea, and after the sisters decide to trust Rin, regardless of their history with humans, he also agrees to it. The next moment, both ask to be tamed, but he starts doubting himself, because taming two fairies at the same time is something he never thought was truly possible. Tanya and Kanade notice this and remind him he's much stronger than before, so he decides to give it a chance and try. After taking a moment to figure out the contract spell, he initiates the process and manages to perform it successfully. However, after both see the contract symbol on their hands, he realizes he spent too much energy and almost falls unconscious to the ground. Luckily, the sisters hold him, and while they start offering to take care of him whenever he wants, Tanya and Kanade realize they may have underestimated how strange and bold the twins can be. A few hours later, they return to town, and Rin immediately goes to deliver the shield to Arios, but he refuses to believe they were able to complete the mission so quickly. After Mino evaluates it with her magic and realizes it's legitimate and true, Arios notices the twins hiding and tries to ask who they are, but they quickly distract him because of the historical conflict between humans and fairies. He then demands the payment they agreed on, and as soon as Arios hands it over, he turns to leave. But Agate suddenly asks if he'd like to join their group again. Arios immediately tries to stop him, but Agate tells him to stop acting like they don't need his help. Mina and Lin also agree they need Rimmon. Then Agate approaches to explain all the benefits of working together again, and also promises they'll stop treating him like a slave. However, the memory of all the times they disrespected him still affects him. Then Kanade tell him not to bother responding to them. It then reminds him of the great reward awaiting the hero's group after defeating the Demon King. But Rin refuses the offer, stating he already has everything he needs. After he leaves, Agate calls him a fool for rejecting such an incredible proposal and acts like they don't need him anymore. Mina and Lin also support his delusion, but as they prepare for the mission, Arios relives his humiliating defeat and vows to make Rin suffer for insulting him. Meanwhile, Rin and the girls have just found some shade under a tree, and when the twins ask why only Arios can face the Demon King, he decides to give them a history lesson. Many years ago, the Demon King took control of all humanity with his vast power, ensuring no one could oppose him. The hero of that time then made a pact with the gods and received part of their blood, which granted him a limit break ability that increased his powers until he was strong enough to save all humanity. His power was then passed down through his descendants and currently resides in Hero, which means he'll eventually become strong enough to face the Demon King. After the intensive class, the twins tell Rin he might also have an ability similar to Limit Break because he levels up whenever he tames a new species. Kanade also agree, so everyone suggests he face the Demon King instead of leaving it to Arios and his group of losers. Despite the encouragement, Rin has difficulty believing he'd be strong enough to succeed and says he needs a bit more time to think. After apologizing for putting him in a difficult situation, everyone promises to support him regardless of what he decides. While having breakfast the next day, the girls suggest going shopping to acquire new equipment so Ryan can make the most of the powers he got from them. Shortly after, everyone heads to town, but the twins get worried about being near so many humans and cling to his arm for protection. When Sora promises to protect Runa at all costs, Rons reminds them not all humans are bad, but they still decide to keep their guard up in case some dangerous guy notices them. At that exact moment, two ugly and nosy guys call Tanya and remind her they were the first to be dominated when she arrived at the bridge. The skinny bandit then tries to say he knows her true identity, but his muscular friend pulls him away and says they just wanted to show respect for her incredible power. Tanya then accepts their compliments and promises to fight them again if they can get stronger. The next moment, a fruit vendor offers Canada an apple as a gesture of thanks for helping her move all her things. This makes the twins realize being near humans might not be so bad. But then, three local fans of Rin suddenly appear to chat, so both prepare to push them away. However, after calling Rin Rizmas for conquering so many girls without even trying, one of the girls starts melting over how cute the twins are. Sora then thanks her for the compliment, but Runa decides it would be the perfect opportunity to show how incredible she is. The moment she tries to activate a spell, her wings become visible. Serene and Sora immediately cover her mouth and move away as fast as they can, before reminding her humans can't discover what they really are. Several minutes later, they arrive at an equipment store and Staloff. The owner greets them with a sly smile. After he tells Run to take a look and choose whatever he wants, Runa finds a whip and explains how he can use it for some 50 Shades of staging with them later. While Sora starts hitting her for always making up something strange, Rin picks up a dagger, but notices something weird as soon as he takes it out of the sheath. At that exact moment, a random adventurer enters and demands the best sword money can buy before throwing a fat bag of coins at Staloff. This makes Sora even more upset, but he hides his anger and chooses an elegant-looking sword for Mr. Spender. After acting like the sword is the most powerful he's ever touched, the adventurer walks away. But then Rin asks Staloff if that was really the best sword he had. Staloff then asks if he's accusing him of something. Then Rin explains how every weapon he has on display is basic and only looks sophisticated to attract inexperienced customers. When he suddenly starts laughing and praises Rin's ability to notice something so simple, the twins call him a scammer, but he assures them every weapon on display is sold at fair price. After he reveals his secret collection, Rin immediately notices how strong they all are and asks why he hides them from the public. Then Staloff explains how all new generation adventurers treat his award-winning creation as junk the moment they find something flashy. He continues to tell them about the painfully long process of forging powerful swords and convinces them his scam operation is the only way to ensure only true warriors have access to high-quality weapons. He then praises Run for seeing through the facade again and asks how he did it so easily, because even some high-ranking adventurers still fall for the scam. After a moment to think, Ringley says it must be connected to his daily life as a beast tamer, as he observes every detail of everything he encounters during mission. This makes Staloff's respect for him increase even more. Then he expresses a deep desire to create something special for him. Everyone gets excited hearing this, until Staloff says it won't be possible without a special or called Mitri. Later that day, everyone heads to the guild and all the commotion makes them curious. Then Rin asks Natalie if something important is happening. When she tells them Arios is recruiting new members for his group, Kanad and Tanya note Rin's sudden mood change, but he starts petting their heads and promises he's already over it. Natalie then asks who the twins are to him, and Runa immediately makes up a story about how he likes doing strange things with both. While Natalie starts freaking out and fears he's been a pedo all along, he hands in a special mission request to change the subject. After Stoloffels told them he needed Mitro to forge powerful swords, they tried to figure out a way to find it, but he told them not to worry about it because his father had left an entire mine loaded with Mitri. However, he had recently noticed all the Brielle had disappeared and couldn't do anything about it. So Rian offered to go investigate with the girls on his behalf. Staloff then thanked him for being so considerate and asked how many gold coins they charge, but Rian only asked him to forge a powerful sword if they managed to recover the lost Mitrio. After receiving Natalie's approval for the mission, everyone set out to find the mine. But after almost an hour walking in the scorching heat, the twins start melting. When they explain how weak their species really is, Run spots a lake and they beg him for a break to swim. So he agrees as long as they're quick. At that exact moment, Kanadi tries to undress, realizing he's still there. So he quickly leaves and creates a contract with two squirrels to watch them before taking a nap. Moments later, the twins get jealous of Canada and Tanya's plan. And when Runa starts demanding to know how they got so big, Stora chases her around the lake to stop her tantrums. The next moment, Kanad feels something in her forbidden place and screams. Serene immediately runs toward the lake to save her, only to see it's just a fish trying to nibble her tail. Realizing he also just saw everything they were trying to hide, he begs for their forgiveness, but they end up being really cool about it and even try to take one last dip with him. Fortunately, he avoids their weird plans to focus on the mission. But when they finally arrive at the mine, he notices a bird flying in a strange pattern. At that exact moment, two guys come out and start asking for a fight. Then Rin tells Kanadi and Tanya to go easy so he can interrogate them. Unfortunately, their immense strength ends up being a bit too much for the weak loser. Then the twins offer to search their memories. After they discover it's an entire operation dedicated to stealing Mitral from Staloff, Green decides to go stop the others and says they're already waiting because the strange bird from before was being controlled by a beast tamer. As they start entering the mine, the thieving adventurers greet them with a deadly fireball, but the twins easily block it and decide to show Rim how useful they can be. After they combine their powers to capture the magic users, two green archer fans try to take them down, but Tanya reduces their arrows to ashes before Kaneos knock them out. Ran then tells the beast tamer to accept defeat, but he refuses and tries to stab him. So Ran delivers a brutal body blow to weaken him. However, he still refuses to surrender surrender and summons a behemoth, which leaves everyone stunned, as such a powerful monster should be too much for a common beast tamer. Seeing the shocked expression on their faces, the beast tamer explains how he raised the behemoth since it was small to ensure it would be loyal only to him. After he sends it to attack them, Run distracts it long enough for the girls to get everyone out safely, but Tanya notices how worried Kanad gets, so she sends her to go help him. By this time, Rink had just been hit by a huge piece of earth, struggles to get out of the way, so Canada pulls him and suggests joining forces to defeat the behemoth. Instead of following her plan, he sends her to capture the beast tamer, since he's the one controlling the behemoth. When she finally grabs him, Rin gently asks him to stop his furious pet, but he refuses and says he'd rather lose his life. Rin then realizes he won't last long just with evasive maneuvers, so he decides to try something extremely risky and stops right in front of the beast. After the psycho tamer orders it to crush his skull, it tries to attack, but Rin suddenly activates a contract and becomes its new master. The psycho tamer struggles to believe what he sees, and Rin admits it required a large amount of energy, but then the tamer loses control again and starts barking orders at the behemoth. Rin then tries to stop him because the beast might go berserk, but he continues until the behemoth returns to its natural state. After Rin quickly hits it with a fireball, they tie up the psycho tamer with the rest of his thieving comrade. Later that day, they return to Staloff's shop and explain they were just trying to get revenge on him for the low-quality weapons he sold them. This makes him realize scamming his main clients wasn't such a good idea, and Winnie agrees his actions were completely stupid. However, he then tells him to focus on fixing things by forging only high-quality weapons for everyone, regardless of how they choose to treat them. After promising to do better, Staloff decides to start by making any weapon he wants. Then Rin asks for a gauntlet and a dagger before asking the girls if they're up for another break. Several minutes after sunset, Arius rejects another candidate trying to join the group, and when the beast tamer asks why, Arios explains how useless he'll be in battle, as he can only tame one creature and can't even fight. The beast tamer then reminds him their job is only to tame animals and explains further it's impossible for any beast tamer to handle more than one animal, but this only makes Arios even more repelled by him. When he finally sends him away, Mina tells him there are no other candidates and starts worrying about their mission, because Arios spent the whole day refusing perfectly good tamers, just because none of them were at Ring's level. She then gathers courage to tell him not all beast tamers were bad, but seeing the expression on his face, she quickly changes her attitude and praises him for being such an incredible hero. After saying Agath and Lynn will probably find someone good enough to join them, he sends her to rest. Then she thanks him for being so considerate and turns to leave. However, as soon as she reaches the door, she reminds him to rest too, because he has a world to save. But after she leaves, he takes out a ring full of dark magic and decides to finish Run at all costs. At the guild the next day, Natalie tells Rin not to worry about the psycho tamer and his friends, because they were stripped of their licenses and will spend a long time paying for their crimes. Moments later, the twins notice his sour mood, and when he explains what happened, they tell him to stop blaming himself because they gave him no choice. This makes him feel a bit better. Then he decides to take them for a walk around town. After stopping at a hot dog stand to give them their first taste of good things, they find a bench to sit on. But the twins get up as soon as they finish eating to ask if he noticed anything different about their ability. The sudden question doesn't confuse him. Then they remind him of the change in power level he experienced after taming Tanya and Kanide before asking if he noticed anything after taming them. He then takes a moment to really think about it, but ends up crushing their hopes when he states he feels no difference from before meeting them. After he pets their heads and says he doesn't choose his friends for what they can do, they ask why he's still being so kind to them, since they're really useless compared to Tanya and Kanad. Realizing how insecure they are, he decides to explain his experience with Arios in detail to make them understand why he values trust much more than skills and abilities. The encouraging conversation makes them cheerful again, so they decide to get another round of food. But on the way back, they encounter a strangely dressed nerd called Edgar, who immediately tells the twins he wants to make them his new pleasure maids. After they call him stupid for thinking they'd really go with him, Ren asks who he is. Then he reveals his father is the town's lord and once again orders the girls to follow him. When Rin says he'll never allow them to be taken against their will, Edgar sends his knights to capture them, but Rin quickly knocks out most of them. After the remaining ones retreat from him, Rin tells Edgar to accept defeat, but he decides to go even further and holds all local residents hostage. Rin then reminds him these are the subjects he must protect, but he says they're nothing but useless tools and threatens to start cutting off heads if the girls don't go with him. When both offer to take him down with their abilities, Rin stops them, because revealing who they are would mean they could no longer experience normal life. The next moment, he suddenly remembers a powerful spell and creates multiple portals at once before illuminating the knights until they flee with Edgar. All the local residents then gather to praise him, and while he starts a conversation to ensure everyone's okay, Arios gets excited to start his plan. Later, Sora and Runa describe how incredible Ring was to Tanya and connectively got the multiplication ability from them. When Tanya asks how Edgar can get away with something so sinister, R explains how he likes to grab random girls and lock them in his father's mansion for his own pleasure. Runa then says he probably uses his father's power to avoid any trouble. So Tanya offers to burn down the entire mansion and end his madness. After Rian sends her to relax, she tells him they have to do something because Edgar will probably come back for the twins and for him too. While trying to think of a solution, he considers leaving town with them, but they realize what he's thinking and remind him he doesn't need to take responsibility for protecting them alone. He then thanks them for the support and agrees to act before Edgar has the chance to attack again. Hours later, Edgar's father reminds him to ask for help if he needs it, and after he leaves, Edgar calls a knight named Guille to ensure he takes care of any complaints from the local residents. After throwing him a fat bag of gold coins, he asks for all the details he can find about Vin and also tells him to arrest him on the spot. As soon as Dilette leaves, Edgar rings his summoning bell and a girl named Nina immediately answers, only to end up becoming his human punching bag. The next day, Rin and Kanad find the Order of Knights 8 key, but as soon as he tries to file a complaint against Edgar, a group of knights appears to tell him accusing the Lord's son is the same as committing treason. Kanad then tries to tell them what he did, but Rin stops her and waits until they leave before telling her they're working with him. The next moment, they sense someone in the alley just before a female knight named Estella reveals herself and apologizes for following them. Her humility surprises Rin, but the real shock sets in when she says she's the vice captain of the Order of Knights. After they introduce themselves, she lets out a sigh of relief and says she'd already heard of them since the time they defeated an entire army of bandits. She then explains how the entire order became corrupt after their captain Dilette started accepting bribes from Edgar and his father and asks for their help with the injustice being done to the local residents. Rin still has difficulty believing one of the knights is really good, but Kanadi assures him she's one of the good ones, so he agrees to help. When Kanadi asks if they can go arrest Edgar, Stella reminds them they can't do anything without proof. So Rin decides to set a trap for the knights. After locating an empty barn later that day, Rin stops by Staloff's shop to pick up his weapon before meeting Stella after sunset for the mission. At the same time, Guille, who had already gathered his corrupt knight, explains how he received news that proof of their misdeeds was being kept in the barn. He then orders them to ensure nothing incriminating leaves the barn. But as soon as they enter, a barrage of arrows takes down half the squad. Then Gillette orders a retreat only to discover they've just been locked in by the twins. After taking down all the knights, Rian aims at Jailit, but he senses the attack coming and blocks it before spotting the two. Stella then decides to finish him off and tries to remind him of the importance of defending the law while they clash swords. Her too righteous speech only makes him angry. Then he knocks her down, but she manages to get up again and decides to accept he'll never again be the sweet and innocent knight she once knew. After she defeats him, Edgar finds out and takes out his anger on Nina, before remembering he has more than 100 personal guards keeping him safe. At that exact moment, Arios appears at his window and explains how much he also hates Rin before giving him the magic ring and telling him to finish off their common enemy. Several minutes later, Estella arrives at Edgar's family mansion with her knights and orders the soldiers stationed there to move so they can investigate the mansion for evidence of Edgar's misdeeds. When the soldiers refuse and ask about Dilette, Tanya and Kanad appear and explain how incredible Estella is before giving the soldiers one last chance to cooperate. After they respond by calling all the soldiers on the property, the girls get excited to test their abilities. Meanwhile, Edgar, who was watching from his office, decides to take Tanya and Kennedy after taking Rin's life with the ring, before wondering why he didn't show up with them. At that instant, Rin infiltrates the mansion with the twins and discusses the plan to save all the hostages. That way, Edgar won't have any advantage when they try to arrest him. Runa gets a bit too excited to save the day, so Sora reminds them they need to be as quiet as possible until all the kidnapped civilians are safe. Both then activate a spell to track the energy signatures of all the hostages. But after locating them, Sora suddenly gets worried because she just picked up a particularly powerful energy signature, as strong as theirs. This makes Rin reconsider the plan, since it could be a powerful hostage or a secret weapon Edgar plans to use against them. But he finally decides to go check it out himself and tells them to focus on evacuating the common hostages. Hearing this, the girls get worried and try to go with him, but he pets their heads and promises to be careful. Moments later, he arrives in a corridor and spots an old door at the end, so he walks slowly and finds a cell inside. Upon closer inspection, he sees her on the floor and realizes she's a demigoddess, one of the most powerful supreme species, so he breaks the lock and runs inside to heal her. She initially fears he might be like Edgar, but after he heals her and says he only wants to help, she falls into his arms and starts crying. Months ago, Edgar found her after invading her hometown, but when trying to grab her, his shield almost almost ripped off his arm, so he threatened to behead all the residents if she continued to resist. With no other choice, she begged him to stop and agreed to go with him. But then he made her put on a containment collar to stop her powers and immediately began tearing her guts with brutal kicks. After Rin praises her for being kind enough to sacrifice herself for the people of her hometown, he decides to destroy the containment collar, but she stops him and says it's too dangerous. He then tells her not to worry, but as soon as he tries to break it, he's attacked by a deadly electric field. Then she tells him to give up and accept she's not worth the risk. However, he once again assures her he'll be fine and channels all the abilities he gained from the girls before finally destroying the collar. By this time, Kanad and Tanya had already piled up almost all the soldiers. Then the rest try to bring the hostages to gain advantage, but the twins push them away with one blow and tell the others not to worry, as they've already evacuated everyone. While Tanya and Kanad decide to go all out, Stila starts heading to the mansion to arrest Edgar and his father, who then runs to his office to ask wife for a way out. After Edgar tells him to escape first and promises to solve everything, he flees. But when he reaches the stairs, Run and the girls appear to arrest him. Edgar then releases the Reaper inhabiting Arios's dark ring, and after he stabs Rim in the heart, he convinces himself the mission was a success and departs. However, Rin manages to survive without a single scratch, which leaves everyone confused until Runa reminds them he gained only one ability from his contract, which didn't make sense since there should be two. After telling them about a magic nullification ability possessed by fairies, she suddenly attacks him with a poison cloud to prove he gained the ability. While Sora starts strangling her for doing something so reckless, Edgar loses all hope and is consumed by hatred, causing the dark entity in the ring to gain enough strength to escape. As everyone watches horrified, it swallows him whole. Then Rin quickly hits it with a fireball to stop it from growing. But after the dust settles, a demon bursts from the cocoon. Seeing it up close reminds Rin that a similar demon was responsible for what happened in his village. And while he suddenly gets terrified, the demon promises to destroy everything they love after he sets off to start destroying the city. Ren fears such a battle might be too much for the girls, but seeing the excited looks on their faces, he remembers they live for combat and decides to go stop the demon. At that instant, Nina asks if she can go along, but he tells her to stay safe inside, since she's probably too weak to handle such a deadly opponent. Moments later, the demon starts exploding random houses and laughs at how weak the residents seem until Canadio knocks him down with a powerful kick. Seeing them all gathered to fight, he gets excited and admits spending time with them might be a bit more interesting than blowing everything up. But Rin assures him it won't be that easy before Kanad hits an even stronger kick. After Tan also attacks him, Rin uses his gauntlet to tie him up, but he breaks free easily and mocks them for thinking such a cheap weapon could stop him. Win then says it was just a distraction before the twins activate a powerful spell above his head and release a deadly blast. The next moment, he walks out casually as if nothing happened and summons an army of monsters to balance things out. But the girls easily destroy every monster in a matter of seconds. When he summons a second wave and says he can do this all day, Canarik at the monster. But then the demon uses this opportunity to push her away with a blow, while Tanya immediately releases her dragon breath to block any surprise attacks. Rin stops to check Kanad, but when she gets up, Tanya is also hit. However, unlike Kanad, she gets up the moment Ron tries to check her. Then the demon praises her strength level before sending attacks to all corners of the city and laughing at how easy it is to destroy their home. After Ren uses his multiple fireball ability to distract him, the twins hold him in place with a flaming sword and Rin quickly increases Kanad and Tanya's abilities to the max. Both then combine their powers to shatter every bone in the demon's body. And after the twins launch him into the air, Canadia hits a punch that shatters his spine to finish him off. Despite this, the demon only loses part of his horn and summons an even larger army of monsters to keep them busy while he sets off to destroy everything. Rin suddenly finds himself in a mental battle while trying to think of a solution that stops the demon and protects all the residents who are now at the mercy of his army of monsters. The twins notice his anguish and remind him of his teleportation magic before saying they don't care if everyone discovers their true identities. As they start evacuating the residents, Mina asks Arios why they didn't set out to fight the demon. And when he states it's because their only job is to face the Demon King, Agato reminds him they also have a duty to the people. He then asks if they're threatening his great wisdom, so they reluctantly agree to retreat and he continues watching the city burn, hoping Rian's body burns along. Minutes later, Estella's knights start losing hope. Then she takes a moment to give a motivational speech before the twins reach out and ask for help gathering civilians so they can teleport them to a safe location. After she and the other knights take all the remaining people to an open location near the forest, the girls create a portal, but people realize they're fairies and fear it might be a trap. At that instant, the hot dog vendor recognizes them from the other day and says there's no way away their bad before entering the portal. When the girl who saw them the day they entered town also says they can be trusted, all the others decide to enter the portal. Meanwhile, Kanad and Tanya continue fighting the endless swarm of monsters while Rin desperately tries to figure out a plan to get close enough to the demon. The next moment, all the town's adventurers appear with swords to join the fight and end up opening a path for Rin and the girls to get closer. Kanad then asks Tanya if she can fly Rin up to the demon in her dragon form, but she states that would only make it easier for him to knock them down, since she'd basically become a big target. As soon as they realize the only way is to teleport him right in front of the demon, Nina hugs Rin and says she wants to help like everyone else. Kanad and Tanya then remember demigods have even higher magic levels than fairies. So Rin explains the new plan to Nina to make sure she can execute it. As another wave of monsters rush toward them, Kanad and Tanya decide to contain them. Rin uses his gauntlet to climb the rooftops with Nina and evades all the demon's attacks until they reach the roof closest to him. After saying jumping like Spider-Man wouldn't help him win, the demon prepares for his most powerful attack. But as soon as he releases it, Nina teleports Rin right in front of him. Before giving him a chance to process what just happened, Rin rips off his arm and increases his magic before capturing him and trying to absorb his energy. The plan suddenly takes a dark turn when Rin starts feeling overwhelmed by the demon's dark aura. But then he focuses on all the strength he'd received from the girls and manages to completely absorb his powers. He then gains control of his army of monsters and forces them to attack him until all that's left is his head. With one last drop of strength, the demon asks his name, but Rin refuses and watches as he transforms into fairy dust. Days later, repairs begin throughout the city. Then Rin and the girls join the work to ensure everyone returns to their normal lives as quickly as possible. At the hotel the next day, Nina asks Rin if she can join the family, and he immediately accepts before saying he might not be able to tame another supreme species. However, after taking a look at the others, his confidence soared. Then he initiates the ritual and easily seals the contract with her. Later, everyone goes to the guild and is surprised to see Estella. Rin asks why the new captain of the Order of Knights is spending time with adventurers. Estella then explains how she plans to combine the Order of Knights with the guilds so they can do a better job protecting everyone in the city. After she thanks Rin for everything he did to bring this new era of peace, Natalie asks for a moment of his time to share some incredible news at a table. Moments later, she congratulates him on being promoted to rank C, and when he asks why they skipped E, she reminds him of all the epic battles and missions he's conquered recently and says he should have received an even higher rank. He then says it's all because he had help from the girls, but they tell him to accept the praise for once and stop being so humble all the time. When Natalie also tells him about the incredibly huge rewards waiting for him, he decides to celebrate the promotion with a banquet. The next moment, she notices Nina and asks if he increased his harem again, before realizing she's a demigoddess and asking if it's safe to touch her. As soon as he says yes, she jumps on Nina to play with her skin, and after the others also join her, Rin explains she's the reason they went out, because their room at the hotel is now too small to serve as a base. Natalie then reveals the guild also serves as a real estate broker for adventurers and suggests getting a house instead of looking for bigger hotels. After remembering he now has enough funds to splurge, he agrees to get a house. Then they spend the rest of the day looking at countless houses and almost lose hope because they're all old or ugly. As soon as Rin considers giving up for today, Natalie takes them to one last house that ends up being perfect for all their needs. But they suddenly get suspicious and ask why she didn't start with it. Realizing she can't lie her way out of this, Nadal tells them a ghost has been scaring anyone who tries to buy the place. This terrifies Kenai. Then she runs behind Rin for protection and explains how scared she is of ghosts. When Sora asks about the kind of things people experience in the house, Natalie lists a series of beginner-level pranks, but makes it seem much worse than it really is. While Kane continues freaking out, Ren decides to at least take a look at the house so they can see what all the fuss is about. After Natalie decides to stay behind in case they're taken to the beyond by a prank, Renos leads them inside the house and tries to find a sign of paranormal activity until they reach the living room. When all the furniture suddenly starts shaking, Kanad almost has a heart attack, but her fears only increase when the ghost, who reveals herself to be an extremely attractive maid, appears. The twins immediately try to attack her, but the attack passes through her body. Then they try to think of a ghost spell before noticing all Tina can do is scream and move things. After realizing they aren't afraid of her, she decides to traumatize Kanad even further, but at one point Kanad faints and transforms into a psychotic ghost hunter. She then turns the tables and chases Tina throughout the house until the twins create a ghost barrier in the living room to tame her. Rin then tries to have a conversation, but she decides to possess him. He then tames her and explains how he also learned to tame ghosts in his village. After he learns on the floor, she gives up and tells him to do whatever he wants, but he reminds her that they only wanted to talk. Moments later, she properly quickly introduces herself and explains how her creepy boss disembodied her 30 years ago in a completely different city. When they ask how she got there, she claims to have simply chosen the place after flying around for a while and says she doesn't mind leaving if they can't handle life with a ghost. However, after Canada promises to get along with her eventually, Rena invites her to stay because they could actually use her experience to get the house up and running. Hours later, Run returns to the guild with Canada from Natalie to complete the purchase process before heading out to buy groceries for the housewarming party. Around the same time, Arios and his group of cowardly losers also decide to go shopping. And as always, he tells the salesman to put it on his tab and brag that the great hero is buying from him. When the shop owner tells him to try his games elsewhere, Arios reminds him that it's a sin to refuse the hero's requests. But the salesman loses his temper and asks if he's hiding the hero under his cheap cloak. After he also asks why they didn't try to help when the demon attacked, Run tries to support him, but another salesman tells them to forget about buying anything from them. While everyone gathers and starts calling them a bunch of pathetic cowards who could never become as strong as Rin, he attacks the fruit stand and leaves with his blood boiling. Meanwhile, Rin and Kanad finally return with the groceries. Then, everyone spends the rest of the night preparing before having a feast to celebrate their new home. The sight of so many happy faces around him makes Rin remember where it all began. Then he sheds a tear. When everyone asks if he's okay, he blames the food and asks for more. Will Arius ever become strong enough to get revenge on R? Or will our favorite MC continue accumulating villains and abilities until he gets tired? Comment on part 2 to find out, and don't forget to turn on post notifications after subscribing so you never miss any of our summary.